Turn that down a little bit. That's a little better. Good morning, everybody. Sorry, just wanted to get the light working a little bit. It's a little dark this morning, so I wanted a little more light, but that was a little too much light. But this is how we do things at United versus Everybody. Welcome back to the channel. I am your host, Sean, and I swear I'm an adult. I know what I'm doing. Hopefully you've all had a little bit of a day to process, to vent, to drive out to the middle of the forest and yell until you pass out after this weekend's result. Maybe go find a meeting somewhere. Maybe you can talk, hi, I'm Sean. I'm a United fan. Whatever helps, right? Was not a fun result this weekend. Anyway, after all that, after 24 hours, maybe we're all ready to have a calm, objective, kind of productive, constructive, any of the ifs conversation about Manchester United, about Erik tenhag, about INEOS, about this squad. Let's all have a little bit of a discussion today. I want to get your thoughts. It's not an easy topic, and it's definitely not an issue of right or wrong, good or bad necessarily. It's not as black and white as all that, because life is not as black and white as all that. But we're here today to talk about Erik tenhag. I want to get your thoughts on what should happen next with our manager. Do you think he should be sacked? Do you think that INEOS should maybe circle the wagons and push through this rough patch after they backed tenhag in the summer? They gave him that extension. They signed more players for him. That's backing the manager, in my opinion. I want to know your thoughts. So get involved. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Let's get stuck in here. Kind of a bit of a recap here. So tenhag, he came into a big mess of a club. You remember what United was like in 21-22 season. There was a horrible morale, was through the floor. Everything was just not great. So he came in, he grabbed third place, grabbed the Carabao Cup his first season, got to the FA Cup final that year. Great, love it, miracle worker, big positives. Last season, though, United struggled to find any sort of consistency in the league. We had a horrible injury crisis. tenhag still managed to get all the way to the FA Cup final again, and quite frankly, we did dominate Man City in that final. He lifted his second trophy in as many seasons. The underlying numbers last season, though, were a bit worrying, And while several metrics have improved this year, despite the results, the numbers don't paint a pretty picture. So we saw how many shots we were conceding last year, the lack of clean sheets, the goal differential, all that. This year, so far, tenhag has lost 32% of his league games at United since he's joined. That's just shy of a third of his Premier League games in charge. Second highest loss percentage at United since Tommy Docherty in 1977. Remember the Doc? 33% was Tommy Docherty's number. We all remember what happened there. Like I said in my match reaction following the loss to Spurs, United have lost 2 consecutive games at home this year for the first time since Ollie did it, and he was sacked shortly thereafter. So, again, the numbers don't look good when you compare them. You add a little context. Someone online, too, I think it was Attacking Footy online, tweeted a comparison of Gary Neville's 28-game tenure as manager of Valencia way back when and Erik tenhag's last 28 games. It doesn't make for good reading when you look at the numbers. In 28 games at Valencia, Gary Neville had 11 losses. They only scored 39 goals, and they conceded 38 goals. In his last 28 games at United, tenhag has lost 13 games, so 2 more. 34 goals scored, 4 less than Neville, and he's conceded 45 goals, so 7 more goals. So technically worse than Gary Neville's entire time at Valencia. The Spurs result, again, also saw United concede an XG of 4 for the first time in the last 3 seasons, and this was at home. This is not good reading. The 9 big chances that Spurs created on the weekend was the most United have given away in the last 10 seasons as well. We've only scored 1 goal at home so far this season. That's in the first match of the season. Not good reading. So we know that injuries hit us hard last season. But again, like I said in my preview of the season way back when Justin was here, I'm running out of excuses for tenhag. We have plenty of players right now who are fit. We have plenty of first-team regulars who are fit. And we've only added more players this summer that tenhag wanted. So it's a bit frustrating that he's still banging on about needing more time for players to settle in. How can other managers come into clubs throughout Europe this summer, brand new managers, and hit the ground running? Hansi Flick just joined a financially struggling Barcelona side this summer, and he has them first in La Liga right now with 7 wins and 1 loss in the league. Antonio Conte, he has Napoli top of Serie A, despite losing top scorer Victor Osimhen. Fabian Hurtzler at Brighton, Arne Slot, Liverpool, Andoni Iraola at Bournemouth, Unai Emery when he came into Aston Villa. They're all doing just fine. They've got flying. Unai Emery came in and got Villa to Champions League. When was the last time Villa were in the Champions League? Hurtzler, yeah, they're not like great in the league right now, but if you watch them play, you can see something's happening. Sure, again, so there's context needed with all these instances, and I get that. And I've said that many, many times. I've added context to a lot of these things, whether it's new manager bounds, injuries, the structure of a club. Brighton's structure is way better than what United's has been for a very long time. Liverpool are already a very, very good squad. They're already spent 9 years building under Jurgen Klopp, so that's what Arne Slot walked into. We get it. We get all that. But again, like I said the other day, the whys don't matter as much as the whats, and the whats are a big deal around that Ten Hag is in his 3rd season at United. The whats are the lack of results, the lack of points, the lack of scoring goals, the 12th, 13th place in the table right now kind of stuff, 8th place last year. The whys don't matter as much as the whats, and the whats are concrete. So keep getting your thoughts in the chat. I want to know what you think so far. We're going to continue. Maybe Old Trafford is cursed. Now hear me out on this one, because it's not just the players that show up at United and struggle. Managers haven't fared so well. Say what you want about David Moyes, but the job was way too big for him. We all know that. I'm reading through Jamie Jackson's book right now, A Season in the Red, and the first couple chapters are about David Moyes, and first page does not make for good reading. David Moyes walked in it's like he was sitting in his dad's office chair for the first time. That was not good. Well, say what you want about him. He wasn't a bad manager at Everton. He had Everton consistently in that 6th and 7th place in the league. He spent many years there. Louis van Gaal had a stellar CV and had just come off an impressive World Cup with the Netherlands. Jose Mourinho's resume speaks for itself. Ollie is the one who probably way overachieved during his time at United, but it still ended the same for Ollie. And then you've got Erik ten Hag. He had his Ajax side dominating the Eredivisie for several years. And people like to say, well, Ajax always dominate. They don't. Look at what the Eredivisie table looked like before Ten Hag got there. And look at it after Ten Hag left, and you'll see Ten Hag did a very good job there. He also had his Ajax side bloodying a few noses of big clubs in the Champions League. Remember, they knocked out Juventus. They knocked out Real Madrid. They kept Haaland at Borussia Dortmund quiet in the Champions League. But he comes to United, Ten Hag, and whether it's the job, the league, or maybe the media's just relentless anti-United rhetoric, whatever it is, he's struggled. What's up, Nick? Good morning, buddy. Big up. Again, these managers aren't bad managers, but they come to United and they catch whatever sickness has infected the club over the last decade. I mean it too. There's a toxic disease at United, and it's been allowed to spread for 10 years. And we're going to talk about how that affects the players too, because it's not just the managers. In defense of Ten Hag, though, there's more to it than just him. Again, those managers struggled. We've had 6 managers. If Ten Hag is sacked, we're going on a 7th since Sir Alex retired. And the closest we've come to challenging for the league was a 2nd place finish in the 2021 season, where we were 12 points behind Man City. Like, that's the closest we've come. Sir Jim has also said himself that the environment in the last 10 years has made it impossible for a manager to succeed. But speaking of Sir Jim, how would it look for INEOS to pull the trigger on Ten Hag right now? One could make the argument that sacking Ten Hag would be a bit knee-jerk from INEOS, and would ultimately maybe undermine this long-term project that they backed last spring and in the summer. Doesn't necessarily show signs of change under new ownership when you sack a manager just months after backing him and extending his contract, even after a few bad results and poor performances. Again, though, that being said, you could also make the argument that this isn't the Glazers anymore, and INEOS have a class team in charge of making those decisions, including appointing a new manager. So, but is the top priority of everything they have to do right now is changing the manager top priority? I think it's unlikely we're going to see the same mistakes that we saw under the Glazers and under Ed Woodward, but at the same time, if something got to change, something's got to change. It's reported by Alex Crook that INEOS are calm about things at the moment. They aren't in a hurry to react, but we will see what happens. So in any case, let's pretend for a second that Ten Hag is sacked. And you guys let me know your thoughts. Let's pretend he's sacked. What next? Will INEOS appoint a free agent manager, someone like Graham Potter, someone like Thomas Tuchel, someone like Gareth Southgate? God, no. They could. We've seen reports that Potter and Southgate aren't necessarily top choice. Thomas Tuchel doesn't sound like that's really going to happen. There was some talks in the summer that we approached them. But a free agent manager is free. That's awesome. But it doesn't make sense if it's not who your top choice is. It just doesn't make sense because you're going to be in the same boat again. That's reactionary. Could Ruud or even Rene Haka become interim manager if, let's say, Ten Hag is sacked? Could be worth a go. Appointing Ruud, maybe, as long as we move for a top target in the summer, no matter what it takes. I don't think Ruud is a top target. What I don't want to see is an emergency interim like free agent or a promotion like Ruud. And I don't want to go the Ollie route and give him a permanent job after a few good results on a new manager bounce like we did with Ollie. That is more and more reaction. That's not a plan. That's just a reaction. Ruud has only had one season of first-team management at PSV Eindhoven. That's it. He worked with their youngsters. He worked with the Netherlands squad. And then he has one season at PSV, and he spent one season out of the job. Yes, he's learning, and we did that video on Ruud if you go check that out. But that's too inexperienced for the job right now. Kieran McKenna would be more qualified for the United job, and I still think he's too inexperienced for this job. So Ruud, not interim, maybe long-term, probably not. We have to move past this idea of simply wanting something other than what we have so that we'll take anything. That's just not logical. It's not planning. It's just reactionary. What do you got going on here, Nick? Nick says no Potter, no Southgate. I think the job is probably too big for Potter, personally. I think Potter could go to Spurs probably at some point if he wanted to and do very well. Southgate, I think the less said about Southgate, the better. Nick says they are no better than Ten Hag. I'd pick Nagelsmann. I really like Nagelsmann. I think that he could be a really good appointment. He's still young, but he's so very experienced, and he's shown that he can do a very good job. I know there were issues at Bayern with some of his just changes. He's like almost too tactical, where he's constantly changing things around, and he didn't sound like he was a very good communicator. Hopefully, because he's so young, hopefully he can address that and work on that. There's still plenty of time for him to do that. He's not like a 60-year-old manager who's pretty set in his ways like a Mourinho or something. I would really like Nagelsmann. I think that he is a representation of moving for the future. Nick says no Tuchel either. Bayern never finished third until Tuchel came. Yeah, we did a video on Thomas Tuchel, and I think he gets kind of a bad rap for what happened last season, because Bayern actually had more points last season than they did the season prior. Literally, Bayer Leverkusen had to go undefeated just to have a chance to win. So I think it's a bit harsh because they were better than they were before he got there, Bayern. It's just one of those deals. He went pretty far in the Champions League. Tuchel's not a bad manager. My issue with Tuchel is he throws a bit of a tantrum when he doesn't get things his way. And that does not to say like, oh, I just want to transfer, like I want this player. He threw a fit at PSG when he wanted a center back and they got another midfielder. So he played Danilo Pereira at center back. That kind of stuff bugged me. Tuchel doesn't want to be as involved in the political side of the board and all that stuff. He'd rather just have a say in the transfers, but just get down to coaching, which isn't necessarily bad. And it kind of sounds like that's what INEOS want moving forward. But I think that Tuchel is kind of in that age bracket now, and his personality is in that bracket where maybe he's just a little too set in his ways. I wouldn't have minded Tuchel. He probably wouldn't have been my first choice. I would probably want Nagelsmann, but I don't think you're going to get Nagelsmann out of Germany squad right now. So it is what it is, but I hear you on that one. But again, Ruud has only had one season. I don't think that's going to be it. We have to move past the idea of just, we don't like this, so anything will do, any port in a storm. That's not planning. That's not logical. So sticking by a manager during a tough period and trying to implement and maintain ruthless high standards at a club, that's a tough line to walk. It's hard to do both. How do you know when it's time to move on from the current situation? How do you know what the right choice is? And it's going to look different for everybody. Some people, they're going to freak out after one bad result, like the 7-0 Liverpool. There are still United fans who will go back to that 7-0 result and say that's when they lost faith. That was literally Ten Hag's first season. And even Liverpool fans will sit there and bang. Some Liverpool fans probably got 7-0 tattooed on their arms. But again, one bad result is not an entire season. Look at what happened that season. Liverpool finished below us in the table, and we got a trophy. They didn't. Like, it's battle versus war mentality. So that's kind of weird. Is it 2 or 3 losses on the bounce that cause people to freak out? Is it missing out on top 4? Again, everyone's going to have a different answer of when it's time to move on, when you lose faith. I've seen YouTubers and online fans raging right now, saying things like Bayern and Real Madrid would have sacked him years ago, or things like, oh, he was saved by a toenail against Coventry City. Like, saved by a toenail, I knew it was offside in real time, first and foremost. I could see it plain as day. But secondly, we won the FA Cup. Why are we holding him to a standard of a game we still won, and we're not even acknowledging the fact that we dominated City in that FA Cup final and we won the FA Cup? You wanted him sacked after the Coventry match. Who's to say if we would have won the FA Cup or not? I'll take a trophy any day of the week. I'd rather finish the season with a trophy than bang on about a 7-0 loss. Eugene, welcome to the channel, bud. He says, all we need is a tactical change. 4-2-3-1 is not working. I don't think 4-2-3-1 works with Manu in the deep role. I think Manu needs to be moved up. We just don't have many options, unfortunately, right now. Manu is leading the league. Like, he was one of the top interceptors and stuff, and he's got really good dribble stats and progressive passes stats. But I think we're missing something from him by forcing him to play so deep. If Ugarte was a little older, if Ugarte had been here a little longer and he was a little more match fit, I would love to see us play a 4-3-3, but I just don't think that's what it's going to be. But welcome to the channel, bud. Thanks for checking it out. So again, everybody's got we're Man United, yes, and yes, some other clubs like Real Madrid would have sacked managers a long ago. I get that, but we're far cry from where we were, and we're perhaps even farther from where we want to be in terms of getting back to that level. And honestly, even in the old days, we didn't do that to managers. Can you imagine, like, if Fergie had taken over in this day and age, he would have been sacked. Like, there's more evidence to suggest that sticking by manager through a rough period is going to have better results than just sacking one every couple of years. Fergie did not do well his first few seasons. Jurgen Klopp did not do well his first few seasons. Arteta got 8th place, 5th place. He's bottled the league twice in a row. And like Arsenal, they have a plan. I still think that Arteta is a bit overrated personally, but the point is Arsenal have a plan and they're sticking by it and they're building. There's arguments can be made for both sides. I hear it. Eugene wants 4-4-2. I think that 4-4-2 personally, I don't think our midfielders can hang on both sides of the pitch. We don't have any Roy Keanes sitting around in midfield right now who can play box to box with energy for 90 minutes right now. We just don't have that. And that partly can be put on Ten Hag. You can say whatever you want. I just don't think we have the profile of players. And the players have shown that they could not be bothered to run. They're jogging around the pitch. I don't trust 2 midfielders holding down. The problem is right now Bruno is not really cutting it into 3, so maybe he needs to drop a little deeper. I would drop Bruno altogether, but that's another conversation. So saying that we should sack Ten Hag because that's what big serious clubs do is a little bit, it's trying to force us into being a big club, but it's doing it in reverse, that mentality. And that's not how you rebuild. You don't rebuild by just sacking someone. There are other steps and other order of operations in that whole process that probably need to happen. We've seen over the last 10 years that sacking someone and starting all over again every couple of years does not work. Like I said, there's more evidence to suggest that sticking by a manager through a rough period of time is going to work out. I'm not saying that Ten Hag is the one to do that with. I'm just saying overall, there's more evidence to suggest that. Look at what Klopp did at Liverpool. Look at what Arteta's doing at Arsenal. Look what Fergie did, all that. Add to that it would cost nearly 18 million to sack Ten Hag. And don't get me wrong, if it's the right decision, you pay the severance and you sack him if that's what best for the club. But I don't really care about the severance. That's why I don't really feel bad for managers as well when they get sacked, because they're going to get a huge payout. Like, we were still paying David Moyes until last year, the year before, and they're going to be back managing soon after that. I don't feel bad for managers. But that being said, if the decision to sack Ten Hag is more reactionary than kind of planning and stuff, then it is a bit foolish a decision. Successful individuals, serious individuals, and individuals who think past their next decision and see through their emotions, They know the difference between reacting and responding. So think about that. Moving on from Tenhag though, and any potential replacement. And I did a bunch of videos last spring about potential replacements. You know, guys, let me know if you want me to do more, but we did a lot of those last season. We did De Zerbi, Amarim, Potter, Tuchel. We did some videos on those last, so go check those out. But moving on from Tenhag and any potential replacements, the question of what next doesn't just end with the manager, because a change needs to be made regarding the squad, because these players have blood on their hands. They've been getting away with murder. They were absolutely disgraceful against Spurs. They were not great against FC 20. 11 professional footballers at this level should be able to give half a shit about turning up against Spurs at home or against Liverpool at home, or should be able to see out a 3-goal lead in the 70-some-odd minute against Coventry City in the FA Cup. I don't just mean they need to get a kick up the ass, but I think that something needs to be done about the weak mentality in this squad. They're weak mentally. United, I will send you my CV. Let me come in. Let me chat with the squad one-on-one for a bit. I mean it. I will come in and do that. I'm working on sports psychology stuff right now. I can do it. I won't even charge you. Just put me up at Hotel Football. I'll come and talk to these players one-on-one. I'll figure out what's going wrong. But it's clear that something is going on. I think it's clear, too, that somebody or multiple people in that dressing room are not happy. As we've seen, the leaks have kind of started again. We're getting the lineups coming out way early. We're getting inside stories from inside the dressing room, et cetera, et cetera. There were reports coming from the Daily Mail yesterday that maybe lend credence to this notion that the players just aren't trying for Ten Hag anymore. For Chris Wheeler claimed that the players expect Ten Hag to be sacked. Although he still has the support of the dressing room, there is a growing feeling among the players that he cannot stop the rot and a change is inevitable. Alex Crook adds that the feeling in the dressing room is that a change will be made if results don't improve quickly. Again, if this is true, if this is someone leaking it, that's disgusting from the players. And we've seen it over the years. So there's more evidence, again, to suggest that there's truth in this, because we've seen the leaks. Everybody thought Dean Henderson was a leak. We sold him. Leaks are still happening. It's basically, if this is true, this is basically the players downing tools. And if they're saying like, well, we think he's gone, he can't stop the rot. The rot is not like it's not some sort of intangible construct. The rot is performances. If this is true, this is the players pretty much giving up and saying, I'm not going to try for Ten Hag anymore. Like, and he can't change my mind. Like, that is selfish. It's cowardly. It's spoiled. It's irresponsible. It's immature. If results don't improve, how about stop jogging? How about stop pulling out of 50-50 challenges? And how about stop missing big chances in front of goal? That's how results improve. That's how things change. Ten Hag is not in the final third. Ten Hag's not in the box with the ball at his feet, right? That's Rashford, that's Xerxes, that's Højlund, that's Garnacho. Like, Ten Hag is not leaving a man uncovered at the back post. That's Dalot. Like, that's the problem. The players are just not doing it. And if the players are already telling themselves or telling others, like, well, he can't change my mind, so why bother? Like, that's embarrassing. Eugene says the players are not playing as a team. Plenty of miss. Yeah, the players were shambolic against Spurs. Like, it's like, and this is what happens when your mind is gone. You're going through the motions. You see the blank stares on the face. You remember the way Casemiro looked in that first half against Liverpool. That's literally how everybody, aside from Onana, looked the entire 90 minutes against Spurs. It's just blank stares. Nobody looked focused. They looked like they were just looking past each other. Dalot was atrocious. Probably the worst thing I've ever seen in my life was that performance from Dalot. The players have a lot to answer for. How is it so many of these players can look so good when they go away on international duty, but then they fail so spectacularly at the pitch at Old Trafford? How can they be so good when we target them and when we sign them, but then they struggle at United? How can we sell players and only to see them go on and perform at other clubs? Fred got a hat trick the other week. I mean, how can, as soon as they come to the club, again, this is why I think it's cursed, man. There's something going on, because these players, these managers, they come to the club and everything changes. And these are full internationals, World Cup winners, Champions League winners, league winners, but at United, they look like a Sunday league side. It's embarrassing. Is it pressure? Is the United shirt just too heavy for some of them? I mean, Xerxes, for instance, and I'm not trying to pick out Xerxes or anything. I'm just using it as an example. He looked shell-shocked at Spurs. He just looked like he was just overwhelmed, like the noise was getting to him, the pressure was getting him. He looked like he was playing within himself, like he didn't really know what to do. Is it complacency after getting a big contract? Rashford and Bruno have dipped in form since they got their new contracts. Could that be something as well? I know I called it the other day with Bruno. I called it new contractitis. The same thing we saw with Rashford as well. I think that with that, the next steps in this rebuild really need to be having a look at Luke Shaw, having a serious talk about Marcus Rashford, and having to start planning for life without Bruno. If PSG want Rashford, I might say we need to listen to some offers, because if he's not going to work out, if he's causing problems, if he's any sort of responsible for the leaks, this is probably the last season. I did that video on Rashford, how this is going to be make or break. If Rashford is not going to do anything, if he's going to have this kind of mindset with so many managers, then it might be time to cut and get the most we can out of him this summer if PSG come back for him. If a Saudi club wants Bruno, it might be time to move Bruno on. I know he just got a new contract, but perhaps that's us in protecting the investment. I don't know. If someone like a West Ham or a Newcastle want to take a punt on Luke Shaw, bite their hands off, bring in a top left back target. I did my left back video a couple weeks ago on big targets. Go back and watch that video as well, because I do think left back should have been one of the big priorities in the summer that we just failed to address. We're already getting reports that Malacia and Shaw are going to be out for another 6 to 8 weeks. Like, this is embarrassing at this point. Now, again, in terms of Bruno, Rashford, and Shaw, this isn't me being reactionary either, because I've done videos on each of these players, like I've said, and I've discussed them many times about how they could be a weak point in the side. But that needs to be part of the plan, despite a new manager. INEOS need to be looking at those kind of things despite a manager, because this is how a proper club is going to be run. A proper club, a proper ownership regime and recruitment side and all this, they plan and build and instill a culture and an ethos in the club that a manager is a part of. That instead of reversing it and filtering everything through each manager like we've done for the last decade, we need to get a manager profile that suits what we're doing. This is what Liverpool did with Jurgen Klopp. Jurgen Klopp was a data-driven signing for Liverpool. It wasn't. The manager that we appoint for this plan that we have, this pathway, this identity and culture we're trying to instill, then the manager needs to embody that. We want to play exciting football. We want to integrate youth. We want a manager with personality who can take control of the dressing room, all that. But it is going to be on INEOS to get that appointment spot on. Anything less than spot on, and we're going to be in the same exact situation in 2 years. Asif Ashraf, welcome, bud. How are you? We need to move past this 2.5-year period when we start to sack managers. Backing Erik, who is the most similar to Sir Alex, may prove the right course. It may. We don't know, but something's got to be done. Again, like I said the other day when I did my reaction video, I can sit here and talk about, hypothetically sacking tenhag. This doesn't mean I want tenhag gone. It doesn't mean I'm tenhag out. This is just me saying I don't see how he gets passes. I don't see how he survives these results, especially with a tough trip to Porto, which we'll do a preview on in a couple of days. And especially with a tough trip to Aston Villa on the weekend before a big international break. I don't see a way out. If I have a coworker who is my best friend and he makes a big mistake and I think he's going to get fired, it doesn't mean I want him to get fired. It just means I think he's going to get fired. Like, it just is what it is. This is how football is. Once you lose the players, once you lose the dressing room, it's near impossible to get back from that. And the problem is, to get back from that, you have to completely change a lot about your management, which again is kind of a sign of weakness. It could be a sign of humility. It could be a sign of compromise, but the players have to meet him halfway. So I hear what you say. Asif says he can survive this if INEOS back him and help him reach a good place. And that's hard. Again, like I said earlier, it's a question of like, when does that line need to be crossed? When, how long does it before, when you're backing a guy and results aren't improving, how long before you say, we just have to cut bait here and move on? How long? And that answer is going to look different for everybody. I agree that, there's more evidence to suggest, like I said with Sir Alex, like I said with Arteta, like I said with Jurgen Klopp, there's more evidence to suggest that sticking by a manager through a rough patch is going to yield, results if you build and you plan for the long term. I get that, but I'm not naive to the point where I think that this isn't going to go unnoticed. So welcome to the channel, but I appreciate you getting involved. He says other managers have not had the expertise in the management system that Ten Hag has now. Yeah, that's what I said too. It's a completely different system now. There's no longer the Glazers, no longer Wood. We do have a proper thing, but at the same time, Erik tenhag wasn't an INEOS appointment. He was a Glazer appointment. He was a Woodward, whatever you want to call it, appointment. So I think that INEOS have no loyalty there. The only caveat to that being is that INEOS looked at other targets in the summer and they decided to stick with tenhag. They decided to extend his contract and they decided to bring in more players that he wanted. So they have backed him. But at the same time, they can literally turn around and say, listen, Erik, we've done this for you. We've shown, our support. You have to deliver. You have to show us something. You have to meet us here. You have to, fulfill your end of the deal here. So they could easily say that. And I don't think they would be in the wrong to do that. The question it's figuring out what's going on and trying to fix it, So again, INEOS need to get the next appointment spot on if they decided to sack tenhag. I do give Sir Jim and his team a little bit of grace because it is their first season of charge, but they're not exempt from criticism and partial responsibility as well. I get that they don't want to make rash decisions and they want to assess each situation before they finalize a choice. But I will go in on them for taking so long to get Dan Ashworth in from Newcastle because I think he could have made a big difference in the transfer market. I will go in on INEOS for taking so long to bring in Manuel Ugarte, Matthijs de Ligt, and Nusser Mazraoui because, again, we know that these players are going to take time to get bedded in and get settled and stuff. We've seen that. We should have made those moves earlier. And I'll definitely go in on them for the way they handled the manager situation last spring. It was very public, very quiet from them in terms of what they were doing. We know that they were talking to other managers. We know all this stuff. That is not a good look, in my opinion. Listen, it's extremely rare that circumstances like this are down to one person, and that includes the manager. And the current situation is no different. Everyone shares a bit of responsibility to be had, and perhaps even more difficult decisions made if things are going to change. Any goal you have in life is going to require change, is going to require sacrifice. I've said it many times. If I want to run a full marathon in a year, I have to make hard changes to the way I diet, way I exercise, my sleep, my mental stat, all of that needs to change. I can't expect to achieve a goal without making changes and sacrifices. I want to save up to buy my first house when I'm some young kid out of college. I have to make changes to the way I spend, the way I save, the way I budget, all of that if I'm going to achieve a goal. If INEOS and tenhag and these players want to achieve goals, they have to make changes. A lot of that's going to be mental. I said the other day, the big part of the issue right now, at least in terms of the players, is mindset. They have no resilience, no confidence, no cohesion. There's zero mental strength within this squad. INEOS, Man United, if you are watching, I will send you my CV. I will fly over there tomorrow. I will work with them. But in terms of the changes, they have to be the right changes. You can't just make a change for a change's sake, like a lot of fans want. Everyone right now is just get this manager in. And you see it too with players too. Like summer transfer window goes by, a player we were linked with, a player that a fan wanted is doing well. And it's, why didn't we get him? We should have got him. I knew we should have got him. Sancho has an assist when he goes to Chelsea. And it's, why did we get rid of Sancho? This bald fraud. Like it's McTominay has a good game for Napoli, and it's, why do we sell McTominay? tenhag didn't want to sell McTominay. We had to sell McTominay because we were broke and McTominay was profit. People need to just chill out. I still see pundits. I saw Van Basten talking the other day, or was it earlier yesterday or something, about how much we spent on Ugarte and like how he was criticizing tenhag for the money spent on Ugarte. Like, it boggles my mind, and maybe it's just lazy on their part, but if it's not, and this is how people think, it boggles my mind. There are people out there, professionals, who still think a manager decides the transfer fee for a player like we're playing a video game. That's not it at all. People still want to hit tenhag with this Antony stick. Antony wasn't an $85 million player when tenhag identified him. He was like a $35 million player. It was the Glazers and Woodward and whoever, Richard Arnold, John Murtaugh, who waited too long, and Ajax upped their price. It has nothing to do with tenhag. tenhag doesn't decide wages, contracts, none of that. So people, it's lazy, and otherwise it's uneducated. And either way, it's bad. It's lazy takes. Asif says, does the FA Cup win indicate that if the player is fully back Erik, he has a pathway to succeed? perhaps it is about the players not fully being able to follow tactics. And that's the frustrating part that I spoke about the other day. I see if it's we've seen the tactics work. We've seen the players buy into it. I think that game, that FA Cup final, was a perfect example. We did what we needed to do. We pressed when we needed to press. We were patient when we needed to be patient. And we took advantages of the counterattack when we needed to take advantage of the counterattack. And we pulled it off. I think that was one of the best performances I've seen from us under Ten Hag, was that FA Cup final. And that was against Man City. So we've seen it happen. We've seen spells of good pressing. We've seen spells of good possession. We've seen spells where we're just on it. And then, but the problem is that you never know what United squad is going to turn up on the day. You never know what team selection is going to be out. You never know what kind of subs Ten Hag's in. This is why I say everybody's got a part to play, because everybody plays a part in this. Asif says, do we need to consider making the players mentally stronger to handle the pressure, the unique pressure that comes from being at Man United? It could be. It could be that that's a problem. Like I said, Xerxes looks a little shell-shocked right now. I don't think that the media helps. And I don't think that when you walk into a situation in an atmosphere and such a toxic environment that we've had right now, that it helps either. But I do think that you're going to see a lot of clubs move towards that, because of the fact, and I spoke about this the other day, and this is what I'm working towards myself in my personal life right now in terms of professionally. Like, there's only 2 clubs in the Premier League that have dedicated football psychology departments. Other clubs have professionals that they come on as a part-time or a consultancy capacity, but only 2 clubs have fully dedicated psychological aspect and the mental strength of their players and the emotional well-being of their players to a priority. That's not great. It's getting better because we're seeing more players become more and more open about it and the pressure and everything. But I do think it's something that the players need to have some way of processing and getting out, because you keep all that inside and you're just carrying it around, and it's hard not to let it affect you. And like analogy I'll give to my clients a lot is, sweeping things under the rug doesn't work when you're struggling, right? Eventually that pile of stuff under the rug is getting bigger and bigger and bigger until you're starting to move furniture around, you're tripping over it, and it affects all of you. You can't function without bumping into that stuff. You have to find a way to get it out. You have to find a way to process it. You have to find a way to feel it and then let it go. It is what it is. Revers, welcome back, bud. Results and performances are bad. I can't see Ten Hag staying beyond the next couple of weeks. Yeah. And like I said in my match review of Spurs match, and like what I'm touching upon now, it's not that I want Ten Hag gone. It's just I don't see how he survives this. I really don't. Based on evidence, based on just reality of having eyes, I don't know. I don't see how. The only way he get past this is if INEOS believe that he is the man for their rebuild, he is the man for their project, and they stick by him. That's literally the only way I see it. That's the only way the results like this are not going to have too big of an impact. But he does have a big couple games ahead of him. We'll do the preview of the Spurs match this week. Obviously, we'll do that. We'll turn right around and do a preview of the Aston Villa match. And then we've got an international break, and then it's going to be interesting. Again, goals require change, but they have to be the right changes. Whether it's sacking a manager, whether it's sticking by the manager, they have to be the right changes. Whether it's selling a player, whether it's giving the players a kick up the ass, the right moves. Heading into this season, I said many times, if you watch our season prediction video that we did a few weeks ago, I've said many times that a Ten Hag in or a Ten Hag out debate is kind of pointless. Right now, Ten Hag and the players are ultimately going to decide what happens, and we're just going to kind of have to just support them and see what happens after that. As much as I back Ten Hag, as much as I want him to improve, as much as I want things to turn around, it's hard to see a way back from this. I said, but we'll see what happens. Rever says, if we scored more goals, we'd have a better chance. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying, man. We got reports today that the players think he'll be sacked. They're surprised that he wasn't sacked last year. They don't see how a way he stops it. But I criticized them and turned around and said, it's not Ten Hag who is jogging around the pitch. It's not Ten Hag who's pulling out of 50-50 challenges. It's not Ten Hag who's missing clear chances in front of goal. These are the players. We're among the top for big chances created in the league. We're the bottom in terms of missing those chances. That's not on Ten Hag. His football is putting us in those situations. The players have to turn up. It just is what it is. There's no way around that. The players did not turn up against Spurs. They did not turn up against FC20. They did not turn up against Liverpool. I feel, like I said the other day, I feel bad for Onana. He had a very good game against Spurs, and his teammates just let him down. He made 7 saves, including that one-on-one chance with the double save. is very good from Onana this season. He's improving in his shot stopping. It's definitely not his strongest trait, but he's improving. Refer says we have a -3 goal difference. Yeah, we haven't had a great goal difference. And I said early on, before Ten Hag was actually announced, when he was confirmed, but like before he came in, like, we're not going to see a ton of goals from Ten Hag, because you don't generally tend to see that from Dutch managers. They play very pragmatic, very possession oriented, very high percentage pass, high percentage shot, low risk football. So you're not going to see the ollies where it's just constant attack kind of stuff. You're not going to see that. But I do think there are times when we do need to see that more from Ten Hag. We've had many opportunities to, like I said in the preview against Spurs, like I said in the preview against Liverpool, the opportunity is there to go at a team that plays a high line with a counterattack. We do have players for it. I don't know why we don't do it more often, but again, this is why I say there's no point in arguing about Ten Hag in or Ten Hag out. It's those kind of decisions that are ultimately going to decide. Just let him decide what he's going to do, and we'll just see where the chips land. Rever says the brand of football we play bores me. Yeah, and I think a lot of people are going to feel that way. And I tried to warn people when he was appointed. It's going to be similar to Louis van Gaal. Some of it's going to be boring, and that's why I asked the question earlier. You know, is his style of football is it just not good for the Premier League? He's a good manager, but is his style of football just not work? Maybe he got here a little too late. I don't know, but I think that in the modern game, at least in the Premier League alone, we do need to see more energy. We do need to see more fast pace. We do need to see a little bit more freedom of expression, creativity, a little bit more risk taking, and so that's why I do think maybe he either has to find a way to compromise that. But the players have a lot to answer for too. This isn't all on Ten Hag. The players, again, are the ones missing the chances, pulling out of challenges, and jogging around the pitch. So Dalot was an absolute shit show against Spurs. Like, I never want to see that from him again. That was one of the worst things I've ever seen on a football pitch. But that's not on Ten Hag. You know, Ten Hag doesn't tell Dalot to leave Dominic Solanke free at the back post. He doesn't tell Dalot to jog back when Brennan Johnson's getting a free tap in at the back post. That's not Ten Hag telling him to do that. Nobody should have to tell a professional footballer to do that. So Rever says, I don't get it because at Ajax, his team scored so many goals. Yeah, his Ajax team are very good. But his Ajax, again, is that down to the players? The Ajax players, they love Ten Hag. They played for Ten Hag. They fought, you know, these Manchester United players. We've seen them do this under several managers. And I know it sounds like a cop-out, but I'm just looking at the evidence. You know, I said after the Spurs match the other day, this is exactly what happened when Ollie was here and we played Watford. It was the same performance from the players, just not even half-assed. It was quarter-assed performance. No one just jogging. No one really cared. Everyone just were like just going through the motions. And that was it. Rever says Dalot got complacent and arrogant because last season he was decent. Dalot is like, he's been one of our better players under Ten Hag. I did that video the other day that in this system and the way we've seen Dalot play, he's probably our most important player. The way we build out with a three, he tucks in, and the way he gets involved in some of the buildup. But it just was a very, very bad day from him. I'm not gonna generalize one bad showing from Dalot and say that that's his performance, because we know and that's why I'm so frustrated with him, because we know that he's 10 times better than what he showed against Spurs. But that's what I mean. It was similar performance from everybody against Spurs this weekend, and that's a problem. Something is going on behind the scenes that is causing these players to just give up. And it's not just Ten Hag, because, again, we've seen it with other managers as well, and it's a problem. I love the way Ten Hag's Ajax side played. I remember while I'm watching him at Ajax and thinking, man, this guy plays more like classic United than United have been playing for years. Before we appointed him and I was playing FIFA, I used to make Ten Hag and appoint him at Manchester United because I loved the way he played so much, and I thought he would be a great manager. It's just, again, it's one of those things. Good managers, good players come to United, and for some reason they like cross through this portal and everything just turns to shit. I don't get it. So, but you guys let me know your thoughts in the chat. Should Ten Hag stay? Should he go? Do you see him surviving this international break if we don't get results? Are these next two matches make or break for him? Would any other manager be able to salvage these points? It's not as simple. And I said this the other day when somebody was telling me to their Ten Hag out. Like, that's cool if you think that, but I need more from that. Like, who honestly, realistically, you can't just say Ten Hag out without a solution. And you can't just simply say that anybody else is going to do better. You have to give me some evidence that supports that. Because you just saying something doesn't necessarily make it true. So if you're going to sit here and say, Tuchel will do better, Nagelsmann's going to do better, like Grandpa, like whatever you say, tell me why. Why do you think they would have any more impact on these players? Because we've seen other managers go through this problem with these players as well. We've seen these players give up on Ole. We've seen these players give up on Mourinho. We've seen these players give up on Ragnick. Now they're giving up on Ten Hag. What evidence is there to suggest that another manager is going to find the magic solution to get more out of these players? There isn't. It's mental for the players, and in Ten Hag's case, it could be an instance of maybe it's just the job's too big for him. I don't know. Nick says, Sean, I have a different opinion on Ten Hag. I'm leaning Ten Hag out. And everyone's welcome to an opinion. You're more than welcome to do that. Again, that's why I'm here. That's why the channel is here. I want your opinions. I want your thoughts. This channel is made for you guys and built by you guys. I like to know more than just like the what. I like to know the whys when it comes to opinions. And so, again, my opinion right now is I'm not Ten Hag out. I just don't see how he survived this. I'm just being very realistic on that. I don't see how he survives this. If we get another bad result on Thursday, which is very realistic, and we get another bad result on the weekend against Aston Villa, which is probably 100 times more realistic the way they're playing and the way we're playing, I just don't see how he makes it through the international break. The problem is what happens next in that case. And that's what we explored today. Is that going to be a rude thing? Is it going to be a manager free agent thing? I think whatever choice is made, it needs to be like, if it's a free agent manager like a Thomas Tuchel, which we've already seen that is not who they chose, like you can't just keep doing the same cycle. It's probably best to stick with Ruud until the end of the season and then go all out for the top choice and see what happens. It's just going to be very difficult. Justin says, why Carlo? I talked to Justin yesterday. I was texting him. Mostly because I was reminded, for some reason, I thought Carlo Ancelotti was a lot older than he was. I feel like I 100% remember, maybe this is like a Mandela effect moment, where I thought Carlo was like 72, 73. And I was like looking up his managerial win percentage yesterday, and I was like, this dude's only 65. And I'm like, dude, he's contracted only for another year or so. Like, I have a dream, and it begins and ends with Carlo Ancelotti at Manchester United. But we'll see what happens. I don't think, like, being realistic, he would be a great appointment. He doesn't represent, I think, a long-term project that United would be going for. It would probably be Ancelotti's final job if anything like that were to happen, but we'll see. I saw Inzaghi mentioned this morning as well. I think that could be an interesting appointment, depending on what happens. I think he's only contracted for another year, Inzaghi, so could be interesting to see what happens there. But I'll let you guys let me know what you think in the comments. That is going to do it for me. It is a tricky rest of the week. This is like, we could be sitting here a week from today and having another video about, announcement from the club or something that Ten Hag has been, relieved of his duties. It could very realistically happen. So it would not surprise me. I expected to wake up yesterday and see an announcement from the club, honestly, but we'll see what happens. Nick's leaning Ten Hag out. Some people are saying Asif says he needs to be backed. I know Justin says he should probably be backed. And I think that in general, we all want that. I just realistically, I don't see how it happens, but we will see what happens. This is a big choice to make from INEOS. It's going to say a lot, but again, Ten Hag's got to justify the backing. He's got to justify the contract extension. He's got to justify all that the same way Rashford and Bruno have to justify their contract extensions. So let me know your thoughts. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to come back for our preview of the Porto match, and mark your calendars for not this coming weekend, but next weekend during the international break, because Dylan's going to be back. We were going to do a Ten Hag what's his best 11 video. I don't know if it's worth doing that now, so we've switched gears. Dylan and I are going to be going through an all-time Manchester United starting 11 video, so I want you guys to get involved. I'll put up some polls maybe and some questions leading up to that video to get your guys' thoughts, but don't forget to stop by for that. I will remind you, if you want to have your say on what an all-time Manchester United starting 11 would look like. We're not doing substitutions. That's why this is going to be a harder video, but I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that. So don't forget to come by for that. And then Justin's going to come by sometime after that to do a video where we're ranking managers post Sir Alex at United. So come by for that one as well. And again, I'll let you guys know as we lead up to that. But thank everyone for stopping by today. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Rever. Thank you, SC, for checking out the channel. Eugene as well. Appreciate you guys. I will see you guys ahead of the match on Thursday. When Tenhag does his pre-match presser, we'll do a video. So until then, enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for stopping by. And let me know in the comments your thoughts on Tenhag. Should he stay? Should he go? And we'll go from there. But thank you guys. I will see you guys on the next one. Later.